What has been the impact of taking God out of religion? Oh, well, wrong thing. Okay, starting over. What has been the psychological impact of taking God out of the government, out of politics, out of schools? I don't know the answer to this, but I kind of want to discuss it with you today. Hi, I'm Emily Burnham, and you're watching Elevate with Emily. I am a marriage and family therapist and a disciple of Jesus Christ. I have experienced this firsthand where I went to a very secular school, and it's ironic because you're in this field of psychology and therapy where it's supposed to be very non-judgmental, where non-judgmentalness is the foundation for people feeling safe to open up so that they can then heal from the things they need to heal from, right? And yet, in this cohort, I had some professors who literally made me feel judged for being spiritual and religious. I remember how one day in class, we were discussing the importance of using our clients' words and how it helps them to feel seen, heard, and validated when their exact language is being repeated back to them. And then she paused and kind of threw out there, so what does that mean when your client cusses? Like, you're gonna cuss, right? And everyone else in the class was just like, yeah, whatever, I don't have a problem with that. But I was kind of like, no, like that doesn't feel right with me. And my teacher shot me the most judgmental look of my life. I'm like, so much for being in therapy where non-judgment is like the foundation of feeling safe enough to open up and express yourself and allow actual healing to occur. Like, throw that out the window, because here we go, like my therapy professor like shoots me this like, are you kidding me? Are you serious look? Like, really? And I was just like, bro, like, do you know how that just made me feel? Like, now I feel like you don't respect me and my beliefs, or that my desire to present this way is invalid. You didn't even ask me why. We didn't even have a discussion about it. Like, for example, my desire to not use that language has nothing to do with the client. I'm not judging them for their language. It is a personal commitment I have made since growing up in a religious household, and I have noticed a difference in how I speak and how that impacts my mood and my vision and my closeness with God. And so I have made a commitment to use wholesome, elevating, uplifting language. And it used to be like a really big deal to hear cussing. Like, even just 10, 20 years ago, it was such a huge deal to hear an F word, or even the D word or the S word, right? All of these cuss words. So, but it has become so commonplace that it is almost weird now if you don't cuss or if you abstain in that way. And I'm like, again, it had nothing to do with my clients. It is a personal commitment that I have made that I want to adhere by. And so later, as we were doing role plays with our classmates, I was able to have a good conversation with her, and I asked her, do you feel like I don't get you because I'm not using your exact words when you're cussing? And she said, no, like, do not listen to what the professor said. Like, forget her. I feel like you get it. And I was able to recognize that despite not repeating back this specific cuss word that my client uses, I can reflect back with the pain or the anger or the hurt, that the emotion behind the words they're using. And every time in my experience, like, they have felt seen and heard and gotten. Occasionally I'll have clients who, after cussing and they notice that I'm never doing that back, they'll start apologizing, like, oh, I'm sorry. And I'm quick to reassure them, like, no apologies. You use your words. You use what is comfortable for you. I'm not judging you. Like, you're good. And I reassure and validate them in that way. And then I also have had clients where if I brought it up and said, is this a concern for you? Are you feeling judged? Like, I notice you keep apologizing. And so we have a discussion about it, and they're like, no, honestly, it's good. And also, you know, it's kind of a professionalism thing. Like, you're here as this professional therapist, so it also wouldn't fit your image anyways. And so there's been some really good conversations that have come out of it. And at the end of the day, it is just so important that they don't feel judged, right? Unlike how I felt so judged for not using that kind of language. And so I think just little things like that, where when you take God out of everyday things, then people can be that much more hesitant to share their views because they're judged for it. And it's just so weird. I feel like maybe like 50 years ago, I don't know how long ago, and I wasn't alive 50 years ago, so I don't know, but I feel like 50 years ago, you were judged for not being Christian or for not believing in God. And here you have like this commonplace language and belief that is so universal, or at least in the country, so universal that they put it on the dollar bill, like in God we trust, and built the nation on this Christian belief in God. And then you fast forward centuries later, and now it's like, oh, it is offensive to say God or talk about God, unless you're using his name in vain, right? And just saying God, but you're not even referencing God himself. It is almost like offensive or awkward, or people judge you for that. And so personally, the impact that it has had on me is it has made me feel like I have to split up myself into these different parts, where I'm like this professional over here that can't talk about God or her religious side when she's in therapy sessions or when she's filming YouTube videos. And then I have this other side of me that's like, oh, like now I can be as religious as I want because I'm at church or whatever. And then at church, I can worry about like bringing in those secular things of like, I want to bring in something I learned from the psychology world and then relate that to the gospel. But then I don't want to detract from like the doctrine or, have people think I'm going off the mark or whatever. So I just have experienced that firsthand of just feeling confused and lost. And I think what I want to do with my YouTube channel moving forward is like integrate those pieces where we can talk about the secular, worldly, research-backed findings around therapy and attachment and psychology, but then also the spiritual, religious, godly side of things and similarities or even differences and how they interweave and connect. And I don't know, I just think there's so much power in being yourself and not judging people for that, whether you're religious or not. Just love everyone. But again, that is even a Christian value of just loving humans. But I hope that is universal, whether or not you're religious, because it kind of keeps us together. It kind of helps keep us from hating each other and murdering each other and committing crimes. And so I hope that we can at least find a common bond of humanity and love, regardless of any other difference in political beliefs, spiritual beliefs, religious beliefs, racial beliefs, cultural beliefs, whatever worldview that you have. I would be so curious if you could share your experience with God and the psychological impact that it has had on you. If you have ever felt like you couldn't bring up your faith or your belief in a school environment, in a work environment, if you've been judged for doing so. I know President Russell M. Nelson, a religious leader, has shared an experience where he was criticized for having too much like temple in his body or like too much spirit in the surgery room. And I kind of just chuckle at that because I'm like, honestly, goals. Like I want to be just like the peppy, upbeat, happy, bubbly, spiritual person that people are almost just like, whoa, like I don't want them to tell me calm down because like that's not cool, but they notice that and that is a part of me, and I've integrated it into my full self, and I even bring that with me no matter where I go and what I'm doing, and I don't feel like I have to hide and like, oh, like religion's not welcome here, so I guess there's parts of me that aren't welcome, so I'll leave those at the door and come in feeling unwhole and unauthentic. So anyways, if you have experiences, please share them below, and I will see you guys in the next video.